question is for Mr. Zablocki. The question is in regards to how, well, first of all, let me just say, Help USA should be here. You know, this is, we're taking the time out of the community board and the community residents to be here. They should really be here. But how does this proposal fit into the broader picture of the administration's plan for dealing with homelessness, which it's unfortunate to say this administration has not had a good track record when it really comes to homelessness in the city, which has actually risen in the last half a decade. So how would this proposal fit into that scheme?
A couple of comments on that. First of all, I take issue with your characterization that this administration has not had a positive track record of homelessness. We have seen, I will speak about the single adult system, for example. We have seen, following the recession, an enormous increase in the number of people tragically seeking shelter. We don't choose to build shelter. We don't think it's a good outcome. My preference is to move people into permanent housing as quickly as possible. If we had our druthers, we would put people into permanent housing immediately. Unfortunately, the number of people entering the situation of homelessness requires that we have some emergency service that deals with them as they enter into that situation of homelessness. And that's where the homeless shelter system comes in. It's an emergency service, so to speak, where people enter before we then can make an assessment of them and try to get them to permanent housing. This administration has, every night of this recession, every night since this economic crisis began, sheltered all of the folks who came in front of it and requested and required this service. So I take issue with your characterization that this is not a success. Out of the single adult shelter system, we placed thousands of people into permanent housing. We have reduced street homelessness in New York City by a third since we began working on this problem years ago. So I don't think that that's a fair characterization. Now, where it fits into the scheme of our plan, we need to maintain sufficient shelter capacity to meet the need. We don't want people to be on the streets of the city, and so we create shelter to ensure that there's a place that they can go. And so at this point, as I've said, we've seen a significant increase in the people coming into the homeless shelter system on the single side. This is a shelter that is needed to meet the demand for that service. Madam?
Just questions, please. Go ahead. Yes.
Mr. Duran, I had a question. Just a little bit about the process of how this particular property was chosen to be a homeless shelter. Does an entity approach Help USA and say, we have a building for you that we think would be a good idea? Or does Help USA, are they looking at different neighborhoods and needs within neighborhoods, or was there an entity that said, we have a great building for you in White Point?
I'm not sure it's either or. Help USA certainly evaluates lots of sites. They run a number of shelters for us, so they evaluate lots of sites right here. Not every building out there that's vacant and available is suitable for this purpose. And so they make a judgment that, okay, this building looks like it would work, and then they come to us and say, do you agree? So it's not an either or thing, it's kind of both, a little bit of both.
Next, please.
I don't know who owns it now. I just don't know off the top of my head. There's a building owner who is, and Help USA is proposing that they would do a lease with that owner for a period of time.
Will you ever find out? Do we know how can we get in touch?
Well, the owner of the building is easily available through any of through the HPD website. The building registration component of the HPD website will give you the information on the ownership of the building.
This is good.
I got a question to both of you. Give me a truthful answer. Now,
We've only given you truthful answers.
yeah, please do that. Now, with your experience, when you do bring such a building, or when you do, the goal you want to set, putting in all these homeless people, does crime go up in the neighborhood? Tell me the truth.
So I have worked in this field for a couple of decades, and I've cited many homeless shelters in neighborhoods in New York City. There's never been a case that I'm aware of where citing a homeless shelter has driven the crime rate up in the neighborhood. I'm not saying it goes down, but I think, personally, I don't believe we have any impact on the crime rate in the neighborhood.
personally you didn't experience that. And what about the statistics from the precinct, or does anybody do a study of does crime go up when such, organizations put such homeless and things like that in the neighborhood?
One thing I can tell you is that the per capita number of crimes that occur in homeless shelters is smaller than the per capita number of crimes that happen in the rest of the city. And that's largely because we put together a very substantial security plan in each of our facilities. And so we have an appropriate plan. The security plan addresses what goes inside the building, and we will require any provider, in this case it's Help USA, to also make certain that they have security outside the building, both in terms of CCTV cameras plus security personnel that will maintain the safety of the building and the immediate surrounding area.